What if you can never die? Not in a spiritual sense, not a metaphor, a literal physics-based argument that your conscious experience may be mathematically incapable of ending. No afterlife required, no faith involved, just quantum mechanics. And a conclusion so strange it might be the most disturbing idea you've ever encountered. Stay with that for a moment. Here's what we know about death. It happens to everyone else. You've watched it. You've grieved it. But you have never, not once in your entire life, experienced your own. Every morning you wake up, you are still here. That streak, your unbroken streak of survival, is either the most ordinary thing in the world, or it is evidence of something far more unsettling. What if it's both? To understand what quantum immortality actually claims, we need to go somewhere strange. We need to go to the place where physics stops behaving like physics and starts behaving like philosophy. We need to go to the quantum level, where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, where observation changes reality, and where the rules you were taught in school quietly fall apart. Are you ready for that? In the early 20th century, physicists discovered something that still hasn't been fully resolved. Subatomic particles don't have fixed properties until they are measured. Before measurement, an electron doesn't have a definite position. It exists in a superposition, a smear of possibilities, all real, all coexisting, until something forces it to choose. That choosing is called the collapse of the wave function, and the question of what causes it has never been fully answered. This became known as the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, and it is not fringe science. It is one of the most seriously debated frameworks in theoretical physics today. Every quantum event, every possible outcome, a universe for each one. Think about what that means. Right now, in some branch of reality, you made different choices this morning. You took a different route, said something you held back. In the many worlds framework, those aren't just hypotheticals. They are real. They are happening. There are versions of you living parallel lives in parallel universes, each one just as convinced as you are that they are the original. That's already unsettling enough. But we haven't gotten to the dangerous part yet. In 1935, physicist Erwin Schrödinger designed a thought experiment that was meant to expose a flaw in quantum theory. You've probably heard of it. A cat is placed in a sealed box with a tiny amount of radioactive material. If the material decays, a mechanism triggers and the cat dies. If it doesn't, the cat lives. According to quantum mechanics, until the box is opened, the radioactive material is in superposition, simultaneously decayed and not decayed, which means the cat is simultaneously alive and dead. Schrödinger meant this as a reductio ad absurdum, a way of saying, surely quantum mechanics can't apply to something as large as a cat. But here's the thing. Physicists never found a satisfying answer. The boundary between the quantum world and the classical one remains undefined, and some serious thinkers have argued it doesn't exist at all. If quantum superposition can scale up, then the cat scenario is not a paradox. It's a description of reality. Now we introduce the thought experiment that makes people go quiet. It was never meant to be performed. It lives entirely in the realm of thought, but its logic is almost impossible to escape once you follow it through. It begins where Schrödinger's cat left off. Except this time, you are not the observer. You are the one inside the box. Imagine you are an astronaut. Your capsule is passing through a region of space where a quantum event, a single particle decay, determines whether your navigation system routes you safely home or sends you drifting off course into the dark. Truly random. No way to predict it. The universe flips its deepest coin. From the outside, mission control watches. In some outcomes, you make it back. In others, the signal goes silent. They grieve, they move on. But you are not at mission control. You are inside the capsule. And here is what Many Worlds says is actually happening. In every branch where the navigation fails, your conscious experience simply stops. There is no darkness, no awareness of loss, just an end to the thread. But in every branch where the system holds and the capsule turns toward home, you are still there, still thinking, still breathing, still experiencing the next moment. Your consciousness can only ever find itself in a branch where it continued, No matter how small the odds, there is always a branch where you made it home. Listen to that again slowly. No matter how improbable, no matter how many branching points, there is always a version of you still moving forward, and from your subjective perspective, that branch is the only one that exists. You would experience survival every single time. Not because you were lucky, because the only version of you capable of experiencing anything is the one that did. Now here is where it stops being a thought experiment and starts feeling personal, because you are not sitting in a capsule. You are living a life, and your life, like every life, has contained moments where things could have gone very differently. The near miss you barely remember, the illness that resolved, the accident that almost happened but didn't. You survived all of them, every single one. Is that just luck, or is it possible? And this is the question the theory forces you to ask. That you are already living in the branch where you always survived. That from the outside, in other branches, other versions of you did not make it. That the unbroken streak of your experience is not coincidence, but an inevitability built into the structure of quantum reality. You cannot know. That's the part that stays with you. The philosopher David Deutsch, one of the most respected voices in quantum theory, takes many worlds seriously. So does Max Tegmark, the MIT cosmologist who formalized this line of thinking. These are not conspiracy theorists. These are not people interested in giving you false comfort. They are people who followed the logic of physics to a conclusion that makes almost everyone deeply uncomfortable. And that discomfort is worth sitting with, because here is the emotional consequence no one talks about. If quantum immortality is real, if your consciousness truly cannot be extinguished, it does not mean you are safe. It means something far stranger. You would age. You would deteriorate. The branches in which you survive become increasingly improbable over time. You might find yourself in a world where the circumstances that kept you alive grow stranger and stranger. Survival at any cost. But cost paid by what, exactly? And what about the people around you? They do not share your branch. The people you love, in the branches where you survive, may not. You could outlast everyone, not because you wanted to, not because you chose to, but because the mathematics gave you no other option. Quantum immortality, if true, is not a gift. It may be the loneliest possible version of existence. There is one more layer, and it is the one that tends to silence the room. If you accept the many worlds interpretation, and if you accept that consciousness follows the surviving branch, then you have to ask, has this already been happening? Every risk you've ever taken, every moment it could have ended and didn't, were those just probability? Or were those the universe, your universe, routing itself around your absence? You will never be able to answer that question with certainty, and maybe that's the point. Quantum immortality doesn't offer peace. It doesn't promise anything comfortable. It takes the one certainty everyone thought they shared, the finality of death, and replaces it with something far more ambiguous. A corridor that never ends, branches multiplying endlessly, a version of you always still walking forward. Whether that is beautiful or terrifying probably depends on what you think makes a life worth living. So, here is where we leave you, not with an answer. With a question that physicists, philosophers, and anyone who has ever stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m. has never been able to fully let go of. If your consciousness can only ever experience survival, if the you that is reading this right now is here precisely because every other version of you is not, then what exactly are you surviving for?